Welcome to Tino's Time. And on this episode, I'm going to give you an MLB 2021 standings, prediction, and preview show. We're going to go over all the teams. We're going to go over each division, and I'm going to give you my predictions on what I think the standings are going to be halfway through the season. And then during the All-Star break, I'm going to come back and join you, and we're going to see what I got right, what I got wrong, and see how the teams are really doing. And let's not waste any time, and let's get right into things with the AL East division. Last year, the AL East division winners were the Tampa Bay Rays. They finished the season with a record of 40-20, and they ended up representing the American League in the World Series versus the team that ended up winning the World Series, the Los Angeles Dodgers. In second place, it was the New York Yankees. They finished the season out at 33-27. The Blue Jays finished out at 32-28. The Orioles finished 10 games under 500 with a record of 25-35, and the Boston Red Sox were at the bottom of the cellar of the AL East, and they finished with a record of 24-36. And in my opinion, I think the top three teams are going to look totally different this year. And I think the Orioles and Red Sox will be fighting to see who's going to be in last place. Not hating on the Red Sox and the Orioles. I just think that they're kind of like at the point where they're rebuilding and they're kind of figuring it out. And the Blue Jays have got so many guys. They went out and got George Springer, even though he's going to start the year on the DL. They still have Vlad Guerrero Jr. They have all these amazing players, and I think it's finally going to mesh, and the Blue Jays are a team that you need to watch out for. So by the time we get to the All-Star break, for the AL East, I have the standings being the Toronto Blue Jays, the Tampa Bay Rays, the New York Yankees, and like I said, I have a feeling the Baltimore Orioles and the Boston Red Sox will be fighting for 4th and 5th place. So let's move on now to the AL Central. And last year, the AL Central was one of the most competitive divisions in the American League. The Minnesota Twins ended up winning the division with a record of 36-24. In second place, it was the Cleveland Indians. They finished with a record of 35-25. In third place, the Chicago White Sox finished with the same record as the Cleveland Indians, but the Cleveland Indians beat the White Sox more throughout the season, so that's why they were able to jump over the White Sox. And the way the White Sox struggled at the end of the year last year, honestly, I'm surprised we made it. We just started so hot once we got going into the season that we had a little bit of a cushion, and thank goodness for that, because we would have not made the playoffs. In fourth place, we had the Kansas City Royals at 26-34. And in the bottom of the AL Central, it was the Detroit Tigers with a record of 23-35. And in my opinion, this division isn't going to look too much different, but it is going to look different, though, because the Cleveland Indians blew it up. They got rid of Francisco Lindor. They got rid of Carlos Carrasco. Last year, they got rid of Mike Clevinger. They have just completely blown it all up. And honestly, I see the Indians and Royals flipping spots, because the Royals, I talked about it in my MLB Players show, they went out and got guys like Carlos Santana. They went out and got guys like Andrew Benintendi. They have Mike Minor. They have a really young, good pitching staff, and that's a team that you need to watch out for. So the Royals are a team that you need to watch out for in the halfway throughout the season and all the way through the season, because they have made a lot of good moves, and I could see them competing in the AL Central. And if you listen to my MLB Players prediction show, one of my bold predictions was that the Royals were going to be competing for at least a wild card by the time we get to the All-Star break. So for the AL Central, I still have the White Sox. The White Sox have made just so many moves, and not even just saying this as a White Sox fan. They went out and got Lance Lynn. They went out and got Adam Eaton again. They signed Liam Hendricks. They went out and they have a rookie prospect of the name of Andrew Vaughn. He's going to be a baller this year. Yes, they lost Eloy Jimenez, sadly, for 4 to 5 months. Actually, there was a report that came out this week that said that they actually saved a month. So Eloy will be back in 4 to 5 months instead of 5 to 6 months. But still, that's still a very long time. And there's going to be no way to replace his power. But the White Sox are just so stacked that I don't see them being able to. I see them being at the top of the AL Central by the time we get to the All-Star break. But the Twins aren't going to be far behind them, because the Twins are still a really, really good team. And yes, they've owned the AL Central the last few years, and the White Sox are just finally coming the The Indians are kind of falling. The Royals are coming, but the Twins have always been the mainstay of the AL Central, and all the teams are trying to get over them. And I just think that this year, I think the Sox are going to be able to get over them, but the Twins are not going to stop without a fight, and they're going to be there all season long. So, like I said, at the All-Star break, I have the White Sox, the Twins, the Royals, the Indians, and then the Detroit Tigers in last place, and they're probably going to stay in the cellar. As bad as as much as I don't want to say it, the Tigers are just starting their rebuild, and they have a lot of good pieces like Casey Mize and all those young pitchers and outfielders and position players, so I think they're going to be fine in the next 3 or 4 years, but right now it's just not your time, Tigers, and that's what I have for the AL Central. And now let's talk about the last division in the AL. It's the AL West, with teams like the Oakland Athletics, the Houston Astros, the Seattle Mariners, the Los Angeles Angels, and the Texas Rangers. This division was one that the Oakland Athletics just completely dominated. No team other than the Athletics finished the season over 500, and the only reason why the Houston Astros got into the playoffs were because the teams that finished the season first and second place automatically made it, because I don't see the Houston Astros making it last year if it wasn't for that, even though my White Sox barely made it as the 7th seed, even though they had a better record as the Astros. But anyway, the Athletics finished the season with a record of 36-24. They won the division by 7 games over the Astros. The Astros had a record of 29-31. Mariners had a record of 27-33. The Angels had a record of 26-34, and the Rangers had a record of 22-38. And this division, honestly, I still have the Oakland Athletics leading the division by the time we get to the All-Star break, but I can see the Los Angeles Angels and the Seattle Mariners being better than the Houston Astros. And yes, the Astros still got talent like Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa. They got all these good guys, but there's fans back in the stadium, and I don't think people realize how much that's going to mess with the Astros, because if you don't remember, there weren't fans in the stadium last year, so the Astros weren't really affected, but now everybody's going to be booing them, and I think that's just going to be the demise, and I think this is going to be where we see the downfall of the Astros and the Angels. Ohtani's been having an amazing spring. They still have Albert Pujols. They have the best player in the major leagues, Mike Trout. They still have all these great guys, and the Los Angeles Angels are a team that you need to watch out for. Also, the Seattle Mariners are another team. They got Kyle Lewis. We talked about him as an amazing rookie. We talked about one of their other outfielders in my MLB Players show. They have a lot of young, good talent, and I just have a feeling, of course, the Oakland Athletics are probably going to be at the top of the division for most of the year, but I can definitely see the Seattle Mariners and Los Angeles Angels being like the team like the Royals and competing for the wild card, and that would be cool because I just want to see different teams compete, and I want to see the trash cans, the bang, bang, bang Houston Astros go down, because you don't deserve that World Series title, in my opinion. I really like the Astros, but once all that came out and that scandal came out, I lost all respect for all their players, and I will never root for the Astros again. So by the time we get to the All-Star break in the AL West, I have the standings being the Oakland Athletics, the Los Angeles Angels, the Seattle Mariners. I'll give the Astros 4th place because the Texas Rangers, we talked about it again, another team we talked about in my MLB Players show. I know I keep going back to that, but the Rangers, they got rid of Lance Lynn. They lost Odor. They just designated for Simon Odor, even though he hasn't had a really good couple years. They lost Nomar Mazara, even though he wasn't a great player all these years ago. He had a couple good years, but now he's on the Tigers. The Rangers are just at the point where they're rebuilding, and they got a lot of young talent, but it's still going to take a little bit of time. So I have a feeling the Rangers will be like the Tigers, and they'll be sitting in the cellar at the end by the time we get to the All-Star break and the end of the season. But we'll get to that, and we'll see how it happens, and we'll see how it plays out when I get back to you by the time we start and we get to the All-Star break. So real quick, I'm going to give you a recap of the AL and what I have going on until the All-Star break. My division leaders are going to be in the AL Central, the Chicago White Sox. In the AL East, it's going to be the Blue Jays. In the AL West, it's going to be the Oakland Athletics. And I'm going to say the two teams that will be leading the wild cards by the time we get to the All-Star break, it's going to be the Minnesota Twins and the Kansas City Royals. I'm going to say two teams from the American League Central. I just have a feeling the Royals are going to be better than they thought, and the Twins are always good, and I just think the White Sox are going to to be really, really good this year. So I think those three teams could possibly make the playoffs. We'll have to see how it plays out, but that is what I have predicted for the AL. But now let's go into the other conference. It's the National League, and let's start off with the National League East. And last year, the NL East looked like this. The Atlanta Braves won the division with a record of 35-25. The Miami Marlins, the COVID Marlins, the Marlins that had all these COVID issues because nobody could follow protocols. Everybody kept getting sick, but they somehow found a way to compete all 60 games, and they finished out the season with a record of 31-29 and ended up making the playoffs. The Philadelphia Phillies and Bryce Harper ended the season with a record of 28-32, and they just did not get it going. The New York Mets this season look like a totally different team, but last season they finished the season with a record of 26-34, and they were sitting at the bottom of the NL East, and they were not liking life. The Washington Nationals were at the bottom of the NL East, but a few years ago, they were the World Series champions. Isn't that crazy how a couple of years a team could just go from being World Series champs, being the top of the world, the MLB, but now you're in the last place in the NL East, and honestly, I don't see that changing this year because Nationals, you still have lost a lot of pieces, and your division is so much better than you really think, and the Mets got so much better, so Nationals, you're probably going to be sitting in the same spot this year, and I just cannot believe I'm saying that. But for this year, before I get into the standings for the NL East, I wanted to talk about a guy that is retiring from the MLB this season. It's Nick Markakis. He was a 3-time Gold Glove winner. Markakis holds the record for consecutive games without an error for an outfielder at 398 games. He was as steady at the plate as he was in the outfield, finishing with 2,388 career hits and a slash line of 288, 357, 423. Markakis played in no fewer than 104 games every year except for the 2020 pandemic-shortened season last year. Nick Markakis, you were an amazing player. I enjoyed watching you. I hated you when you were on the Orioles because you always kicked the White Sox butt, and I was happy to watch you go in the National League. I hope you enjoy retirement. I hope you enjoy your time off, spend time with your family, and enjoy life. Thank you for all your service. But back to the standings, and let's talk about how the Atlanta Braves, yes, they lost Nick Markakis, and yes, he's a great player, but they still have so many talented players on that team. It's ridiculous. They have Okara Jr., they have Albies, they have Freddie Freeman. They have so many guys that I just do not see the Atlanta Braves losing the top of the NL East anytime soon. So I have the Atlanta Braves being at the top of the division, but not right behind them. I just said it, the New York Mets look like a totally different team. They went out during the offseason. They went out and got James McCann. They went out and got Francisco Lindor, Carlos Carrasco. They added 3 huge names. They have Pete Alonso still. The New York Mets are ready to compete, and they're ready to try to take that division title away from the Atlanta Braves. But by the time we get to the All-Star break, I have the Mets being in second place and competing and maybe being 1 or 2 games behind the Braves. And I could see that coming down to the last game of the series or the last series of the season, whatever it may be. That's a series I would love to watch because those 2 teams are going to be dope and so much fun to watch. In third place in the NL East, I have the COVID Marlins, the Miami Marlins. We talked about it. They made the playoffs last year. They had an amazing season. And, they have a lot of good young players, and hopefully everybody stays healthy this year. So I think that they're going to compete, and they're going to be in the middle of the division all year round, and maybe they compete for a wild card. I mean, who knows? The Miami Marlins, like I said, they had a lot of good players, and maybe they're all just finally coming. In fourth place, I have the Philadelphia Phillies and Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, why did you sign that contract? There is no reason to sign that contract. You're never going to win a title in Philly, and it's funny that you went to Philly, and then that same year, your old team, the Washington Nationals, won the World Series. But speaking of the Nationals, they're going to finish in last place in the NL East again. And I think that they're going to stay in the bottom of the NL East the whole season by the time we get to the All-Star break and at the end of the season. But we'll get to that, and like I said, we'll see how it all plays out. These are just my predictions and what I think is going to happen. So if you comment or whatever it might be, don't hate, because this is just what I think is going to happen. So I have the NL East. The Atlanta Braves are going to be atop of the division. Now, for the NL Central. Last year, the NL Central was owned by the Chicago Cubs, and it has been owned by the Chicago Cubs for a very long time, since they won the World Series in 2016. They made the NLCS in 2015. They've been so good for the last 6 years, but, finally, it seems like it's coming down. The Cubs, they lost Yu Darvish. They got rid of Kyle Schwarber. They lost John Lester. They lost Alberto Almora. They lost Jose Quintana. I could go on and on and on. They lost so many players, but last season they finished the season out with a record of 34-26. The Cardinals went out and had an amazing offseason. They went out and got Nolan Arenado. Last year they finished the season with a record of 30-28. The Cincinnati Reds last year, they had Trevor Bauer. They lost Trevor Bauer, and they finished the season with a record of 31-29. And now that they lost their best pitcher, I see them falling. In fourth place, the Milwaukee Brewers finished the season with a very disappointing record of 29-31. They were supposed to be very highly rated last year. They were supposed to be better, but they just could never get it going, and Christian Yelich was struggling. There was many guys on that team just did not get it going until later on in the season. But my God, the Pittsburgh Pirates only finished with a record at 19-41. I didn't even realize the Pirates were this bad until I looked at this when I was writing it all down. I cannot believe the Pirates were that bad, but I see them being about as bad this year because, yes, they have that rookie Hayes that we talked about, the third baseman, but they still have a lot of young talent, and they need this. They're just starting their rebuild, and they just finally got rid of Josh Bell. They should have done that a while ago. They got rid of Andrew McCutchen a couple years ago. Starling Marte is finally gone. They finally got rid of all those guys, and now it's time for them to start fresh. So I see them sitting at the bottom of the cellar in the NL Central. But for the top of the NL Central, I have the St. Louis Cardinals being at the top by the time we get to the All-Star break. They went out and added Nolan Arenado, one of the best third basemen in the game. He's a baller. I cannot believe the Rockies finally gave him up. And so the Cardinals, they're going to be at the top of the NL Central, and they're just going to be running all over the NL Central. In second place, I have the Milwaukee Brewers. The Milwaukee Brewers were a team that were supposed to be really good last year. They were very disappointing, like I just said. So I see them having a very bounce back year, and Christian Yelich is going to have a bounce back year. Everybody is going to have a bounce back year in the Brewers, and they're going to be competing with the St. Louis Cardinals for the division. Now, for third place, you might be surprised. I have the Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds were a really good team, and yes, they said they lost Trevor Bauer and stuff, but they still have Joey Votto, and they still have other guys that I think can compete and can be very good in the major leagues. And the reason why I have them in third and the reason why I have the Cubs in fourth is because I just named all the players the Cubs lost. I just named 4 or 5 players within 2 minutes the Cubs lost, and it's ridiculous. The Cubs lost like half their team, and right now they barely have a rotation. They got rid of Yu Darvish, like I said. John Lester's gone. Jose Quintana's gone. They went out and got the guy from... They got Zach Davis from the Brewers, and he's really good, but, they're not the same team that they did, and they did get Jock Peterson. He's a way better upgrade than Kyle Schwarber in left field, but I still see the Cubs struggling, and the 3 other teams in their division, I just feel, are a lot better, and I just don't see anybody stopping the Cardinals this year, especially, like I said, with Nolan Arenado. My God, the NL Central, just give the NL Central title to the St. Louis Cardinals already, and there you have it for the NL Central. I have the St. Louis Cardinals leading by the time we get to the All-Star break. And the last division in the NL, let's talk about it. It's the NL West, where the World Series champion, the Los Angeles Dodgers, came out from. Last year, the Dodgers finally won the World Series. They were the team that kept getting to the NLCS. They kept getting to the World Series, but they lost to the Astros. They lost to the Cubs. They lost to all these teams in the playoffs. They could never get it. They could never get the World Series title. But last year, after a 60-game shortened season, after all the COVID protocols, the Los Angeles Dodgers finished the season with a record of 43-17, and they ended up beating the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series. And what a surprise, this year, they're still one of the favorites going into the season because they went out and got guys like Trevor Bauer from the Cincinnati Reds. They still have all the amazing talent of Corey Seager, Cody Bellinger, all these amazing guys, and I don't see that changing. And in the NL West, the San Diego Padres last year finished with a record of 37-23. The Giants finished with a record of 29-31. The Rockies, they traded Nolan Arenado. They had Nolan Arenado last year, and they only got 26 wins and had 34 losses. And honestly, the Rockies might even be worse because, yes, they still have Charlie Blackmon, but when you lose a guy like Nolan Arenado, I don't know how you're going to replace that. And in last place last year, the Arizona Diamondbacks, another very disappointing team, they finished with a record of 25-35. And like I just said, I don't see the NL West changing too much this year. I still have the Dodgers being at the top, but like I said in my bold predictions, I can see the San Diego Padres coming out and being that surprise team that upsets everybody and that shocks the world and is on top of the Dodgers, and they just steamroll the Dodgers all season round. So that's a team that you need to watch out for, because I think that it's going to be a two-team race in the NL East, or not the NL East, I'm sorry, I'm going backwards. The NL West, I think that the NL West is going to be a two-team race between the LA Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. I said it, the Padres got Yu Darvish, they got Blake Snell, they got all these great guys, and they're ready to compete. They still got Francisco Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, Eric Hosmer, all these guys, and the Dodgers and Padres are going to battle it out all season long for the NL West title. But by the time we get to the All-Star break, I still have the Dodgers in first place, even though my bold prediction was the Padres. It's just a bold prediction. I can't go against the World Series champions right now until the Dodgers prove it. So by the time we get to the All-Star break, the NL West is going to look like this. The LA Dodgers will be in first. The San Diego Padres will be in second. The Giants, the San Francisco Giants will be in third. The Colorado Rockies will be in fourth. And the Arizona Diamondbacks will be at the bottom of the cellar, with the Washington Nationals and the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National League at the bottom of the cellar. So for a full recap of who I have winning the NL divisions and being in the wild card by the time we get to the All-Star break, I have the LA Dodgers being at the top of the NL West, the St. Louis Cardinals being at the top of the NL Central, and the Atlanta Braves being at the top of the NL East. And I'm going to say the two teams that will be in the wild card race and that will be at the top of the wild card, it's going to be the New York Mets, because all of the additions that they've made, and the San Diego Padres, because the San Diego Padres, like I said, are going to be that team that's going to compete with the Dodgers, and it's probably going to come down to a series just like it might with the Atlanta Braves and the Mets. And I love games like that. I love series when it comes down to the final games of the season. And I just cannot wait to watch all of these teams compete. It's going to be so much fun. Baseball is back, baby. Hopefully I can get tickets to a baseball game. I want to walk into the stadium and smell the hot dogs and smell the corn and just smell that baseball atmosphere. It's the best smell in the world. If you don't know, though, MLB will be holding a ceremony on June 2nd to honor the late New York Yankees first baseman and raise awareness for ALS. It's one of those horrible diseases. We don't want anyone to ever have them, and I think it's awesome that the MLB will be honoring Lou Gehrig on June 2nd for his ALS, and it will just be one of those days that we all support and we all look back and we just realize that there is bigger things in the world to life than baseball, and we have to realize that we're all people, and let's just honor all of the amazing great baseball players that have brought the game today so people like me and you can watch it. So there you have it. I've given you all my predictions for the MLB standings. I cannot wait to have baseball. Baseball's back April 1st, baby. I cannot wait. It's going to be an amazing season. And until July, when we get ready for the All-Star game, we have an All-Star break, we have the Home Run Derby, we have the All-Star game, and I'm going to get you ready and I'm going to get you updated on everything going on in the MLB world. But until then, until July on the All-Star break, this is your boy Tino signing out.